वेलकम टू प्रिंस शॉर्टेड हाउस। आज हमारे एक्सरसाइज नंबर 15 एंड 16 जो सितंबर 2021 ऑलरेडी हमारी यूट्यूब चैनल पे 80 वर्ड से मिनट ये अपलोड हो चुकी है पहले। और आप मैं समझता हूँ, मैं बार बार बोलता हूँ कि आपको पहले 80 वर्ड से मिनट की लिखनी चाहिए और उसके बाद ये हमारी 100 वर्ड्स की जो मैं नॉन स्टॉप देता हूँ 15 एंड 16 इट मीन्स 1680 वर्ड। और पहले ही अपलोड हुई है 15 80 वर्ड से, फिर 16 80 वर्ड से। तो आपको प्रैक्टिस जरूर करनी चाहिए, डेली लिखना चाहिए। पहले आप 15 लिखिए 80 वर्ड से, 16 लिखिए 80 वर्ड से, फिर इन दोनों को लिखिए और अपने लेवल से लिखिए, प्रैक्टिस करके लिखिए। हमने अपने पीडीएफ में डिफिकल्ट वर्ड, आउटलाइन, स्पेलिंग, मीनिंग सब डाले हुए हैं। आपको रेगुलर प्रैक्टिस की ज़रूरत है, बहुत ज़रूरत है। आगे बहुत सारी वैकेंसी हमारी आने वाली है, जिससे कि आपको एक प्लस पॉइंट मिलेगा हमारे यूट्यूब चैनल को डेली यूज़ करके। और मेरा अपना मानना है लेवल मेंटेन जरूर कीजिए। अगर आपकी 80 की स्पीड से पहले 80 की ही क्लियर कीजिए, हमारी 100 की प्रयास कीजिए लिख के। पहले 80 की लिखिए फिर 100 की, और अपनी कमी दूर करने के लिए प्रैक्टिस रेगुलर कीजिए। तो हम स्टार्ट करते हैं एक्सरसाइज नंबर 15, 100 वर्ड्स a minute। बी रेडी, स्टार्ट। द प्लानिंग प्रोसेस इज as it should be under constant review, and we must not feel shy of initiating new approaches to planning perspectives. After 50 years of independence, the tangible benefits of planning are yet to reach the millions of our countrymen living in the remote rural areas. The quality of life presently available to the economically weaker and vulnerable sections of our society, among whom are the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, needs to be improved without delay. The end result of planning should be monitored and evaluated so as to ensure that there is a noticeable shift in emphasis from the urban to the rural areas and from the better off sections of society to those unfortunate brethren who constitute a silent majority. Only then can we take pride that our planning effort has been realistic and worthwhile. Any effort in the direction I have indicated cannot possibly be fruitful unless the administration which is to implement these socio-economic programs is in true with the underlying spirit of this planning exercise and responds with sympathy, understanding and a sense of urgency to the task given to it. Only then will the needs of the common man, particularly of the economically weaker and more vulnerable sections of society in the remote rural areas, come nearer solution. After 50 years of independence, in adequate housing, communications, health and medical care and essential commodities at reasonable prices continue to be beyond the reach of the millions of our countrymen. We need to search our hearts to locate immediate and long-term shortfalls in reaching the benefits of planning to the grassroots of our society. Our planners are now engaged in putting a realistic result-oriented rural bias into our plans for socio-economic development. The recent announcement with regard to the industrial policy with emphasis on the employment-oriented small-scale industries and the extension of credit facilities to such industries and to small farmers in the agricultural sector is welcome. This is an area where the governors of states could use their good offices at all levels to advise, encourage and caution those engaged in this gigantic national building exercise. Our youth are trustees of prosperity and the institutions where we seek to impart to them the values of life and our culture heritage apart from fitting them out for more mundane duties and responsibilities in later life. Our planners are thinking in terms of providing increased employment opportunities and to tackle the question of both existing unemployment and underemployment in all walks of life. This is a Herculean task. We must therefore at the national level evolve a consensus as to what employment opportunities can be created and what would be the contribution of such an exercise for the national welfare. Only thus can we hope to eliminate the growing discontent in the younger generation who are slowly getting disenchanted with their prospects for the future. I have every hope that we in this country will go in for mass programs of self-employment so that our youth will learn to seek opportunities for gainful self-employment and thus relieve the pressure in traditional occupations like government service, etc. Our resources are not unlimited and it is necessary for us to implement urgently a program of austerity and economy wherever possible, eliminate wasteful expenditure and thus ensure that the maximum benefit is derived out of every rupee of revenue earned. There are, of course, traditionally prescribed methods and practices for dealing with these problems, but in all such matters which ultimately tend to become routine and mechanical, example is better than precept, and there needs to be an awakening of individual conscience if at all we are to achieve the highest standards of moral rectitude and honesty in national life. I have been concerned for such time with our inability to control the price line even in respect of essential commodities without which life for the common man can become an unbearable burden. Apart from punitive action, it is necessary to enlist the goodwill and cooperation of all sections of society and all those engaged in the production and distribution process to ensure that there is not only the fear of law but also moral restraint which places an obligation on all those of us who can help to reduce the scarcity of essential commodities and control their prices. I would particularly refer to lavish expenditure and show extravagance among certain sections of our society, which in the circumstances of today have no place in our way of life. The family planning program has unfortunately in the recent past acquired a poor reputation not because the program is in itself objectionable but because some of the methods adopted to force the pace have been unethical. Our population growth is to say the least alarming and try as we may our resources cannot match this increasing pressure of population unless we consciously recognize individually and severely the need to restrict our population growth which will destroy us. Next exercise number 16. Mr. Chairman, for about 12 years or more now, I have been related first rather distantly and then more intimately with the work of the Institute of Pacific Relations. I have profited by reading your publications and have always felt that you were doing good work in trying to understand the problems of the Pacific or the Far East. For a long time, I have felt that as time goes on, the problems of the Far East will become more complicated and the center of gravity, the tension prevalent in the world today, will shift to the Far East and in particular to Asia. While people readily agree that Asia has, to a certain extent, become the focal point of world attention, they relegate Asian problems to positions of relative insignificance and tend exclusively to emphasize the importance of European and other world problems. I agree that European problems are and have been very important, but I have felt that in the perspective of things to come, they were wrong in not devoting the requisite attention to the problems of developing Asia. Asia compels attention in many ways. There are a large number of backward countries in need of urgent economic development and others in which acute scarcity of vital commodities prevails. But what is most needed is an understanding that Asia is going through a process of change and that it is in ferment. Some parts of Asia are quiet and relatively peaceful, whereas others are torn by external troubles and disturbances. I am not referring to the external situation so much as to the characteristics inherent in the personality of Asia. I do not claim that this change is peculiar to Asia, perhaps it is taking place all over the world. In Asia, we have been kept down and are now trying to catch up with others who are ahead of us. We have been engrossed in things of the past and time has passed us by. We have not been able to keep pace with it and so we must run. We cannot afford to talk, but then when we run we also stumble and fall and try to get up again. We realize that speed, especially in an age old continent like Asia, involves risks and dangers, but we have no choice in the matter. If you seek to understand us, you can do so to a limited extent. Asia is a huge continent, and the peoples of Asia are all different from one another as they were reared in different cultures and traditions. In spite of all this, I think it is still true to say that there is such a thing as Asian sentiment. Perhaps this sentiment is merely the outcome of the past 300 years of European influence in Asia. Personally, I do not believe that any profound difference exists between the Orient and the Occident. Such differences as can be accounted for by history, tradition, and geography exist even among the Asian countries, and in fact, even within the same country. Probably the existing differences mainly arose from the fact that certain parts of the world developed their resources and became prosperous while others were completely unaffected by the industrial revolution. I think that thinking in terms of the Orient and the Occident sets us on the wrong track. As a rule, the same type of problems leads to the same results everywhere. At the same time, there are certain countries like India and China with pronounced national characteristics where history and tradition exert a profound influence on the course of events. I am sure there is a great deal of good in this tradition. We should have gone under, but for that. We have survived on account of the good in our tradition, and we propose to hold on to it. At the same time, I have no doubt at all that it has a great deal that is bad too. It prevents us from doing the things we ought to do, so between the good and the bad, and between the past and the present. We do not quite know what we are going to do and what we should do. If you ask me about India, it would take me a long time to tell you about all the aspects of our problems. Our difficulties are not only external but also of the mind and spirit. There are certain tendencies that carry us forward and others that retard our forward movement and compel us to look behind. Progress consists in having the essential things of life, and in that sense we obviously must have progress. We are going ahead, and I hope rapidly we are harnessing science in the service of the nation. Yet a doubt arises in my mind as to whether material progress really constitutes a remedy for our problem. It is at best only a partial solution. Sometimes something more is needed. We need a solution of the broad problems that afflict the world today. स्टॉप। थैंक यू स्टूडेंट्स, हमारे यूट्यूब चैनल को आप लाइक सब्सक्राइब कीजिए, और ऐसे स्टूडेंट जो शॉर्ट एंड करना चाहते हैं या कर रहे हैं स्पीड पे, क्योंकि हमारे यूट्यूब चैनल पे सारी एक्सरसाइज आपको स्टार्टिंग से ही मिलेंगी, और पिटमैन न्यूमेरा से हमने बेसिक कोर्स कराया है, और हमारे यूट्यूब से आप स्टार्टिंग बिल्कुल कर सकते हैं। थैंक यू।